Hello guys, it is Gate of Theories here, and guys, recently the book of Boba Fett has just finished, and whether you hated it or loved it, I thought there's no better time than to do a Star Wars tier list. I am very excited but also very worried to do this because I know I have quite controversial opinions towards the Star Wars films and TV shows, and I know that basically everyone has a completely different opinion. So if any of you guys agree with me, make sure that you smash that like button down below, and before we go any further, please make sure that you click the red subscribe button, and let's just get on with this. So, I've got all of the movies and TV shows here, the ones that I've seen. I haven't got any of like the anime TV shows or stuff like that, just kind of like the main stuff that we definitely know is canon, and we're going to go through them in release order, starting with the movies and then going on to the TV shows. Let's start kicking it off with episode 4, A New Hope. Of course, without this, the Star Wars franchise wouldn't have even started. It had to be successful. And it's a pretty decent film. I love Ben Kenobi in it. I love Luke and his journey to learn about the Force and his initial steps in taking a lightsaber. And the story's pretty decent, you know, them all meeting up together, all these characters, saving Leia, and going off and destroying the Death Star. It's a pretty fun story, but it's not going to be amazing, else it wouldn't be that good of a franchise if the first one was the best. Personally, for me, I think it's B tier. I think it's decent, but it's not incredible. You know what I mean? However, then we come to The Empire Strikes Back. Now, I know for most people, this is their favourite film in the Star Wars franchise. And I'm not surprised, it is really decent. And of course, has the iconic moment of "No, I am your father." Probably the biggest moment in cinematic history. And I do really like this. I love when they go and meet Lando. Boba Fett's introduced in this one, and that's pretty cool. Han Solo, when he turns all frozen and into metallic, that's really scary, I think, to be honest. And it's probably one of the most scariest things in the Star Wars franchise. I remember when I was younger, I used to be terrified of that. And it's a pretty decent story. I love the new settings. Instead of A New Hope with all of the desert settings, we're going into more snowy settings. It's pretty decent, and the fight between Luke and Darth Vader is just brilliant. It's definitely better than New Hope, but this is where my controversy is going to be coming in. I don't think it's A and S tier. I'm sorry. I'm going to put it in the very, very top of B tier. It's very close to going in A tier. Now, you might just click off the video at that point. I'm going to tell you my Star Wars opinions are quite controversial. Next we have Return of the Jedi. I really do love this. Finally, we see Luke in his dark clothes. Is he going to go to the dark side? Is he not? Them saving Han and Chewie at the beginning, Boba Fett being eaten, and just kind of that ending heroic moment for Darth Vader, which really wraps up the trilogy really nicely. But if you've been watching since episode 1, technically, if you're watching in chronological order, I think it wraps it up really, really well. And I love seeing the Force Ghosts at the end. And I think it's really decent. And personally, I think it's better than the other two. I honestly do think that the original trilogy, each one that came, it got better. So, I don't think it's S tier, but I'm going to put Return of the Jedi in A tier. I really do love it, and I just have such a fun time with it. And seeing Emperor Palpatine, it's brilliant. Next, we have The Phantom Menace. Now, this one's a weird one, because when I was younger, I used to love this film, as I think lots of people do when they're younger. Jar Jar Binks, I know he's very controversial, but as a young kid, I really did like him. And to be honest, I used to play this a lot on Lego Star Wars, and I used to love the levels of The Phantom Menace. So I think that's why I began really loving it. That being said, I do get why it's the most hated Star Wars film ever. And I'm going to have to agree with it, because it's just really bad. Every time I've watched it, it has got progressively worse. So much so that now when I watch it, I struggle to watch it because I watched it so much as a kid and I loved it. But now, looking back on it and rewatching it, it is just so bad. So it's going to go in D. I love Qui-Gon and I love that scene with Darth Maul. But Anakin, young Anakin, he's so annoying. So it's going to have to go in the D tier. Next we have Attack of the Clones. Now, this one I really love. I love Ewan McGregor and his portrayal of Obi-Wan in this film. I love Anakin and Obi-Wan's kind of like chemistry that they have on screen, and seeing kind of like all of the Jedi like hierarchy and the training and all the stuff that went into that all of these 3 films used to talk about is really cool to see. So I really love that. And, you know, just seeing what the Clone Wars were like on the film is really, really fun. The only bad thing about this is, unfortunately, Anakin. He's just so weird and awkward, and I know he's meant to be young and a bit confused and is meant to be awkward, but some of the lines he comes out with are just too far. Some of the stuff that he says to Padme, like the ones when they're by the grass or by the sand, it's just like you go from these really cool action scenes with like Mace Windu with his purple lightsaber and Yoda and all that sort of stuff, Count Dooku, and then you just cross-cut to Anakin and it's just not that brilliant. But Anakin does not ruin it for me, so it's going to go in the A tier. Is it higher than Return of the Jedi? I'd say these two are kind of interchangeable for me. Next we have Revenge of the Sith. This basically has everything about Attack of the Clones that I love, but Anakin is decent. They didn't completely ruin this character because he doesn't have any of those really annoying, awkward lines. Instead, he's going to and turning to the dark side, and I think that works for his character. And there are some brilliant scenes in this film. The bits where the clones first turn on the Jedi, Palpatine and Yoda's fight, and of course the fight by the fire and the lava between Anakin and Obi-Wan. You were the chosen one, like, you just can't get any more iconic. So that's going to go probably top of the A tier. It's so close to S tier, like, it's just so good. Next we have The Force Awakens. Now this one, I think the fans kind of like all agree it's a decent film and is a good one to start the sequel trilogy, which I know lots of people don't like. You'll find out from this video, I kind of do like it. And I know most people's criticism of this film is that it's basically just a copy of A New Hope, and I get that. You've got a giant killing planet. In A New Hope it was the Death Star, in The Force Awakens Starkiller Base, and you have the Resistance and a young person from a desert planet, Tatooine and Jakku, finding a droid, wanting to go somewhere where this droid has told them to go to, and they try to stop and they eventually kill this, and they eventually destroy this planet by the end. It is kind of like just a copy of A New Hope, but I think it is way better than A New Hope. Even if it is like a copy and just everything's just on a big grander scale, I think it works. And I love these new characters. I know some people cannot stand them, but you have to admit, in this first film, I think it worked really well. Finn, when he's FN2187 with Poe Dameron, is brilliant. BB-8 is a brilliant addition. I do really like Rey, and I love Kylo Ren in this film, especially that scene with Han Solo on the bridge. It's just so incredible. And you know, you've got all the classics return. You've got old Leia. You have C-3PO with a red arm for some reason, and you have R2-D2 at the end. To be honest, even though it literally is a copy of A New Hope, and Han Solo even says it's just another bigger Death Star, I still really love it. And some of the callbacks that it has to the original franchise is just brilliant. For me, The Force Awakens is a better New Hope and therefore goes in the S tier. Next we have Rogue One, the film that came straight after The Force Awakens, and it's S tier as well. To be honest, I know everyone was really worried when Disney took over Star Wars that they would just lose it all. But for the first two films that they did, The Force Awakens and Rogue One, they did it perfectly. Like, honestly, it was a brilliant time to be a Star Wars fan. And to be honest, if anyone isn't sure about watching Star Wars, I'd show them Rogue One because it's the least Star Wars-y Star Wars film that there is. And it's still brilliant. I love Jyn Erso. I love just the Rogue One team and the whole concept of it. It's really emotional at the end. Some of the fight scenes are brilliant. And that scene just before A New Hope where you see Vader in the dark completely ruthlessly going out at everyone. I know it kind of like contradicts what happens in A New Hope with Vader, but it's brilliant. I absolutely love it. That ending gives me chills every time. Definitely S tier. Next we have The Last Jedi. Now, this one's interesting because Disney decided to change directors. And I think if we'd have stuck with J.J. Abrams, it would have been good. But we didn't, and then we went on to a different director. And if we'd stuck with this new director, it probably would have been good, the final one, but we didn't. And that's the problem with the sequel trilogy. They kept on changing their mind halfway through. So, The Last Jedi, personally, I think it's decent, but then it's completely ruined by The Rise of Skywalker because everything that this film did is completely undone in The Rise of Skywalker. Basically, you've got, for example, Rose, a new character who I didn't mind. I know loads of people absolutely hated her. I didn't mind her. She was going to be a big character. You could tell. Suddenly, Rise of Skywalker comes. She's barely even in it. There are some decent bits that I like about this. There are some bits that really annoy me. Leia flying through space. I know she's got the Force. but I didn't really like that at all. Kylo Ren and Rey's bits are pretty decent in this. Luke is okay, I guess, and the Finn and Rose bit that they do on the side is decent, but not something that I absolutely love. I will say though, I do really love this ending, that bit between Luke and Kylo Ren at the end, the bit on the planet. I love how it just kind of ends with all of the resistance being able to fit on the Millennium Falcon. Like, it just shows the giant scale of the First Order, so I really do like that. Is it as good as The Force Awakens? No, I think everyone would agree. Is it as good as A tier? Definitely not. But do I think it's as bad as C tier or The Phantom Menace? I know lots of you would disagree with me. I don't actually think so. I do think this still does have some decent parts in. Like, the fight scenes in it are really good. That scene with Snoke and Rey and Kylo Ren, I really do like. But that's another thing. They randomly killed off Snoke. I don't understand why they did that. So for me, B tier, I think. It's alright. So then, let's move on to Solo, A Star Wars Story. This is probably the most different, like, Star Wars film that isn't really like anything like any of the other films. And it tried, but I don't think it achieved what it was going for. Of course, this is a prequel to Han Solo, the character, and we get to find out how he got his name, and I have to say that was one of the worst bits of the film, how he actually got his name Solo. But to be honest, like, I don't actually mind it. I think every time you rewatch it, it gets slightly better and you appreciate it more. But it's definitely not as good as any of these. So I think C tier. It's definitely not the Phantom Menace level. I'm not rating it that harshly. I'm going to say C tier. Next we have The Rise of Skywalker. Now this is where it's going to get interesting in this video, because I know some people would instantly just put this here. D tier. Absolutely hate it. Like, worse than the Phantom Menace. They might even move the Phantom Menace up. They think it's that bad. But I don't. I really don't. And I know this is going to shock some people, and some people are actually going to hate me. And please, dislike the video. Tell me down below in the comments. But I'm going to put it, maybe not S tier, but the very top of A tier. I really do love this film. Basically, when I first watched it and came up the cinema, I was speechless. I was shocked. I thought it was the best Star Wars film ever. Absolutely loved it. In saying that, however, every time I've gone back and rewatched it, I've realised it's not as brilliant as I initially thought. I think just the excitement of like, whoa, there's so many different Star Destroyers, and Emperor Palpatine, and Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter, and look, there's a gold lightsaber, and Leia used to have a lightsaber, and all of these sort of things, that it kind of shadowed over, like, the fact that this film isn't the best. However, every time I've rewatched it, it has got slightly worse, but it's still up there for me. I still have a decent time watching this, and I know it's kind of like a weird, like, treasure huntery. We move from one destination to another, we need to find the map. It's that type of Star Wars film, and maybe those aren't the funnest for people, but to be honest, I actually really like it. The only bad thing is that if you're watching it as a trilogy from 7 to 9, then The Rise of Skywalker completely ruins it, because The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi completely contradict everything in this film. So yeah, that's my only disappointment with it. But apart from that, I'm going to keep it at A tier. I really do like it. Next we have the Clone Wars. Now this is including the Clone Wars movie that introduced Ahsoka and just the whole series. And it's decent. I have a good time with it. To be honest, I think these are really interesting episodes and movie ideas, because we get to see kind of like the other sides of the Jedi that the films couldn't go into. And I love some of the battle scenes. Just looking at the first film initially, I love that scene, especially when they go into the shield and watching Obi-Wan's tactics about how to defeat things is really cool. Ahsoka is a brilliant character, and I love near the end of the season where they begin hinting more at Anakin turning to the dark side, and that episode where he sees a vision of Darth Vader is just brilliant. So I'm going to say probably really high A tier, probably here. Next we have Star Wars Rebels. Similar to Clone Wars, it's decent, but I don't think it's as good as the Clone Wars. It was trying to attempt to be as brilliant as the Clone Wars was, but unfortunately I just think the Clone Wars has a few better characters and ideas, but it's interesting, so I really do like it. I'm going to put it top of B tier, I think. Next we have The Mandalorian. This is another unpopular opinion I'm going to say. I know loads of people absolutely love The Mandalorian, especially after the terrible sequel trilogy that everyone apparently hates. Suddenly The Mandalorian came along and they were like, actually, this could be pretty decent. I didn't really like it. I really didn't. I thought the first season was the slowest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. Like, it was so boring, and basically every single episode was kind of like, oh, Grogu needs something, let's go to a planet to find it. Oh, we get in a situation, we need to do a task, we come back, we get the thing Grogu wants, and then we fly off. It's just really boring, so repetitive, and really slow. However, Season 2 was a step up. Season 2 got a bit more exciting. You had the Darksaber, Gideon, I really liked that. Some of the final episodes and some of the more adventurous episodes I really did like in Season 2. So for that reason, it pushes it up for me. So if it was just Season 2 alone, I'd say it's A tier. If it was Season 1, I'm going to go D tier. Like, it's really bad. So B tier, I'm going to say. Middle ground. Season 1, unfortunately, let it down. And finally, we have the Book of Boba Fett. If we're just looking at the Book of Boba Fett, then C tier. Not that brilliant. If it's Mandalorian Season 2.5, I'm going to say A tier. That's all I'm going to say. I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. But anyway, guys, that is my tier list of the Star Wars films and TV shows ranked. What do you guys think about it? Do you agree with me? Have I just completely ruined your day? Do you think my Star Wars opinions are completely false and I'm not a true fan? Please let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And as always, we've been here at Gated Theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.